Okay. There we go.
Awesome. Well, as we talk, we usually, well, I guess I'll do a little intro first. I was about to just start running my mouth. Hi, y'all. So thank you guys for joining in. Today we're going to be talking about ways to improve leadership. But before we do, we normally just kind of like chit chat a little bit about our week and then kind of like go into the conversation just because this is natural and I haven't seen her in a hot minute. So I'm just going to play catch up really quick and then we will get started. But you guys feel free to come on up at any point if you'd like to contribute, if you have a story to tell or anything. We'll keep this room going until 11:30 and yeah.
We took a little bit of a hiatus, right?
Yeah, because Laura, I was falling behind. I was like, I'm still behind. Like I done shoot since we last did the room. I started a whole new side quest within the Lazy Millennials. So now I'm going to be starting up like actual gamified events in my area.
Oh, okay.
So I have to finish getting that situated. I have someone that's going to be helping me out. So I had to get the contract and stuff in order and finish up some things so we can hopefully launch that in October. Because I want to kind of get that up and running. So like when the new year hits, like people already heard the name and I can kind of build off of that. But I got to tell you about that another time because that'll be this will be a whole conversation.
Okay. Well, thank you for our guests for joining us. I see Pauline, Tremaine, Carissa. Thank you for joining. How are you?
I wish there was like a little chat feature in here, but hopefully they'll update that at some point. But okay, I feel like there's so many things we could say about this because I know last time we spoke, and by the way, guys, if you haven't, I'm going to be recording this conversation, so like if you have to skip out or anything, you are able to catch the replay. We usually upload this on Spotify as well, and I have that. If you click the link, not the link in my bio, godly, think about Clubhouse. If you hit my profile, you'll see it in the featured post. So yeah, if there's any other conversation, because we kind of reference back between the conversations that we had previously. So if you ever want to like, what is she talking about? It's there.
Yeah, absolutely. I see Melanie. Thank you for coming back. Good to see your face again.
Okay, so I've been wanting to talk about this for a hot minute. So
okay.
I'll start off with just some kind of things I've noticed, like as we head into 2025. So for those that aren't familiar with who I am, I do business process consulting, and within that, I do like process improvement, and I help different leaders with trainings, mainly for like succession planning, making sure like their employees, their teams are actually ready to up level, things like that. So when it comes to that, I really realize how, I don't want to say, you know what I'm just going to say, how bad it is when it comes to like leading. Like a lot of people I've noticed are in these leadership positions that honestly should not be in them. I'm just going to say it up front, like they may have known somebody, because I know people are like pushing networking, and although that's true, like you still need to have particular skills to also lead a team. And I've been noticing like when it comes to like the succession planning work that I do, like they shouldn't even, I don't want to say it like that. It sounds rude. Because I don't want to sound like I'm
we talk straight over here, so just say it.
I know, it sounds so shady. I promise y'all, I'm really not shady. But it's just, there's not a lot of emphasis of like, okay, like I'm about to lead a team, and I actually have to like learn how to step aside and also be out of the forefront. So, like that's like the main thing I'm seeing. So I kind of want to like pose a question and kind of kick off this conversation too. So what exactly do you feel, I guess because you're up here, but if anyone else as well wants to come up too, like what do you feel like are good traits an effective leader should have? Because I see some people like, yeah, they talk well, they may get along with everybody, but like it's not necessarily leadership material, or that's not the only thing they should be going off of, and I'm seeing a good bit of that.
Okay. Well, before I start, I'm going to introduce myself. So I'm Sonetta Frazier, the HR Whisperer, owner of Edmond Enterprises. We're an HR consulting firm where we help clients with HR compliance, fractional HR, recruiting for management level and above. We do also have our offshore VA solutions where we keep them around $10 an hour, good for solopreneurs. And then we also have a sister company where we provide benefits for both solopreneurs and small companies. So I'm gonna jump into this. I actually just did some coaching yesterday with a client around like leadership. For someone that they're bringing into their organization that's new and already, has asked like, hey, I want to get into leadership like within the next year, right? So, this is such a timely topic, and I'll be transparent. I didn't really realize what the topic was till this morning when I looked at the invite. Hey, Dimitri, how you doing? But traits of a leadership. I'll go back to something that I've carried with me since my 20s. So I've always been an entrepreneur. I say I've my dad was an entrepreneur, so I've always, like, since the age of 13, really helped out, like, in the business and things. But in college, like, I started, like, my own business and things like that. And I remember a leader saying to me, a leader merely is not just someone with a title, but a leader is somebody that's able to move other people into action. And so that has always stuck with me. And so as I've, carried on with my career and have continued to grow my career, and then especially going into entrepreneurship and business myself, I carry that, in the back of my mind. And like you mentioned, a lot of people get into leadership and they really should not be there, and they don't have the tools necessary to be effective, right? And that happens for a couple of different reasons. It happens often in larger corporations because we will promote folks based upon their individual contributions. They may be a really, really great individual contributor, and they may actually bring in great, benefits or rewards for the organization. And so a lot of times, again, it kind of falls into that HR space. It's a symptom of not having a well thought out career path, right? Because not everybody is equipped for leadership. And so even those people that don't want to go into management or should not go into management, they still deserve to have a career path so that they can have upward mobility. And I've had, exercises where I've had to build those things out, because again, like when the only upward mobility option is management, that's when you start to get people going into leadership or being put in leadership and management roles, and they really should not. And half the time when you talk to them, you find out they really don't want to be there either, but they wanted to increase their salary. They wanted to increase their earnings.
That's exactly
that was the only option. But if they had it their way, especially engineers, right? I spent a lot of time with engineers, like especially like in the oil and gas field. They really would love to be able to work, by themselves with their numbers and the chemicals and creating stuff. They don't want to have to deal with the performance management process and all those things. But when folks do pluck people into leadership, a lot of times, companies, they need those folks to hit the ground running, right? Or they need a warm body there to manage the team. And they don't always do the best job of I think I went out a little bit. So they need to plug somebody into the role, and they don't always do the best job of equipping them with the skills. They don't have good, robust training programs to be able to upskill the individuals and coach them through leadership and managing people. And so, so your observations are right on. They are right on.
Yeah, and that's why, I'm gonna bring up my brain back. I talk about this a lot, but it's I feel like you mentioned, corporate, they don't really focus on how these roles are gonna look, and I feel like that's the same way too. Even for the small business owners, we're small business owners, so even for ourselves, sometimes I'm not speaking for us in particular, but sometimes in general, I'm speaking for myself when I had my agency. I didn't figure out who exactly I wanted, who I needed, had I actually taken the time out to actually map out, okay, I need this particular person, they need to have these particular skills, I will pay for them to have these particular skills, and once they do, I'll pay them more, things like that. I feel like it'll make a huge difference when it comes to, one, at least putting the right people in leadership, but again, that falls into Do they know they need to have this? Or if they do know they need to have this, how they go about it? All that good stuff. But yeah, I agree.
Absolutely, absolutely. And again, I just think it's a shame, to put people in the position of leadership and not to fully equip them. And so I'm gonna, kind of to your initial question around like did you say the right characteristics of leadership?
Yeah, yeah.
It's a good characteristics. Well, of course, you want somebody that's integral, right? You want somebody that has integrity. You want somebody that has a bit of relatability to themselves as well. You want them to be knowledgeable, right?
Right.
You also want them to be confident and
yes,
and understand what their role is as the leader. So as a leader's role in an organization should be to, especially when they're managing people, your job is to know what traits, what key skills that the people on your team have, right? And I've been talking a lot, like I really need to get some sort of promo code or something from Dan Sullivan, because I've really been pushing his book, Who Not How. When you step into leadership or executive, and this is one way, especially in these networking groups, in our world, we go in these groups and everybody says they were an executive, right?
Right.
And so one of the ways I'm able to tell that is I can tell by their language and their conversation, because even in the corporate space, as I jumped into or moved into like the executive ranks, like I had to go through a mindset shift, right? Which was, and again, before I even had knowledge of Dan Sullivan's book, Who Not How, it was the same concept, right? And I remembered having like an employee challenge me, well, you don't know how to do this. And I, look, me, I kindly let her know, that's why I have you. It's so like, because that's not my job to do the grunt work, honey. It's yours. And so that's why you're on the team. My job is to manage, work strategically and manage the project management of it, right? And manage you doing the job. And so again, like when folks jump into leadership and they don't have those key skills and competencies, and that confidence, they get pulled into that thing, those challenges or those things. And that's where, like you mentioned something earlier about them not getting out the way or trying to be in the limelight, right? And that's because they don't know their true position and purpose as a leader. Right? Again, it's to know and understand the people on your team, what they're really good at, and to be able to strategically place them, on the appropriate projects and initiatives so that you can drive success and drive projects to completion and deliver excellence, on those projects. And so, another key characteristic is being able to mentor and coach people, right? Because joining into your management or executive role, you may not have all of the skills or key competencies initially. The same thing with your employees. So again, you need to be able to like have an eye to recognize where there may be gaps from where they're performing and where they should be performing, or what good looks like, and then begin to work out development plans to be able to coach them, right? And it's all about temperament. It's all about approach. It goes back to that, being able to move people into action, being able to motivate people, using the right language to get them to partner with you, in their own success, and to feel encouraged to, make necessary changes that they may need to make. So, again, to me, like those are just a couple of the key components of, a good leader.
No, I agree. I do want to stop before I go into, because I really want to touch on something as well I've been noticing too, and it comes from like the vision and like setting goals, objectives, all that good stuff. But I do want to say, because I think we got some new people, or maybe it's the same people, I don't know. I honestly have been looking away from my screen, but I do want to say thank you guys for being here. And if anything resonates with what we're talking about, and you are in a position to come up to join us on the stage, audio stage, feel free to come out. We want to hear your stories. We want to hear from you. We don't mind talking the full time, but we would love to hear your experience and any tips that you would like to share, especially if this is your realm. Like, feel free to promote talk about your job, anything. Like, we like to hear from you guys as well. So I want to lead into that because, like, I mentioned like the succession planning roadmaps and everything, but like it honestly just boils down to like one. I'll scratch out leadership real quick. So like, just in general, like if anyone's going to lead anything, or even if you're doing something in life, like the vision goal setting portion, I feel like, I don't know, I feel like we do it, some people do it too big, or like we kind of dream a little too big, or like we overestimate certain things. So I feel like when it comes to like in terms of leadership, I feel like being able to, because we were talking, I asked you about the skill set, but like being able to like, okay, I have this big picture here, but also being realistic, we only have time to do this, or I only have the team and we can only maybe do a portion of this vision and blah blah blah. So I just want to throw in too, like I feel like overshooting like the vision and what can realistically be done is something also I've been seeing. In order to improve that, I feel like we need to focus on, again, like you mentioned, like the strategies, figuring out how we can break it down, things like that.
No, that's key. And again, like those are the key competencies of leadership. It's again measuring, knowing the skill set that you have to work with, and then being able to develop a strategy around delivering, and being able to time it out to provide proper timing. It also goes into with, again, like corporations, they may have millions of dollars of budgets, right? So again, if people want to step into these leadership roles, but sometimes they don't understand what fully comes with it. So if you're like the leader of a department, like I was in oil and gas, so you may be given a budget of, just for your department, your budget is $20 million, right? So an inexperienced person would think, okay, we only, spent 10 million this year. That looks good, right? Because we didn't spend the whole budget. No, right. It actually looks bad. It actually is very bad, because it shows that you don't possess the equipped skill set to be able to strategize and plan things out effectively. So you basically have tied up an extra $10 million for the year that could have actually been appropriately placed for another department to execute on their goals or push the organization forward. And so again, like if you are managing and you have like budgets to manage as well, like part of your deliverables are to make sure that you're utilizing those monies effectively and most efficient for the organization. And so so I remember like supporting a director within an organization, and that came up. And again, that was against part of that exposure and that vantage point that I'm talking about, where you kind of get to see, okay, what is, like the exposure level that a person has had, with some of these organizations. Because I'm thinking, most of us think, well, that's a good thing. They didn't spend all the money, right? But no, when I started to learn and they broke it down to me, again, like why it was actually bad, to underspend and not fully utilize that budget, it made complete sense. Because again, the reality is it shows that they didn't have the right skill set to be able to appropriately strategize and, execute project management to be able to predict the amount of budget that they would need for a project, right? And essentially tied up monies that could have been used or dispersed to a different project or initiative within the organization. And that, again, and that in turn hurts the organization.
Right. I do. So I kind of want to guide the conversation a bit, like still talking about like the traits and everything, but like also talking into like how we can improve them, because I feel like we have an idea of what like traits and everything a good leader should have, but like how do we actually go about fixing it? So like just kind of like going off of some of the things that you said, I know one in particular, I know you probably have seen this or can agree to this, but like emotional intelligence, like being able to have like empathy, like self-awareness, and like the social skills is needed to actually lead the team. I feel like, I don't know what else I want to say on that, but I feel like that's one of the bigger ones. And since you're in HR, I feel like you probably could have some tips to give to like some of the leaders. Like, how could they be more aware of like their teams? Like, people come to HR, like you guys are there to kind of like help mediate, but like what could they be doing to kind of help their team members out in certain instances? Like maybe there's conflict, or I don't know where exactly other words I want to say here, but yeah.
Okay, so there is a such thing as being too nice. I've seen that with leaders, and and again, that can actually be detrimental to the team and to the organization, where they're not holding people accountable. The other thing that I coach on a lot is around like putting themselves into the person's shoes. So like if they're getting ready to have a coaching conversation to address some behaviors that aren't in alignment with the organization's culture, I actually talk through it. Like if I'm coaching someone, especially like one-on-one,
yeah,
and I help give them or coach them to the language to use, right? And I've started to kind of share with them, like there is a psychology around having someone take ownership of the changes that they need to make and getting the buy-in, right? And there's a way to do that I kind of have to coach or teach them too. And it's like that aha moment goes off, right? So if I come to you, Adriana, and I'm like, Adriana, like I really, like I need you to start being able to make it to these meetings on time, because it's holding up the team. I really need you to, make it to these meetings on time. That translates differently than me coming to you and saying, hey, Adriana, like I noticed, you've had some difficulties coming to these meetings on time, and it hurts the team, but it also is a reflection on you, and I want you, to be able to put your best foot forward. Can you partner with me to, make improvements there so that we can make sure that you're representing your best self? Can I count on you to focus on that and to partner with me on that? And you wait. Okay, go ahead.
No. I'm sorry. I was just kind of like chiming in based on what you said, because I actually had that happen to me at work before. I was showing up a little too. It wasn't like significantly late. Like I wasn't being disrespectful now, but I actually was coming in late. But it was mainly just because I was trying to get my son into like daycare, and like at that time trying to get him settled. So like I would miss like the sign in time or clock in time by like a few minutes. So like I had to have that conversation, and the way she approached it was similar to that. She was just kind of like, like we noticed that you've been coming in late every so often. Like she did it delicately, so it wasn't like she was attacking me or anything. Yeah, so like that made a world of this difference, because like if I felt like I was being attacked, like I have rejection sensitivity, so like I would have felt like she was being mean, and I probably would have been mean back. But just that approach definitely made a difference, and like we worked together, and she changed actually my clock in time so like I could still get my son to daycare, and if we kind of were late one morning or something like that, like it didn't make a difference because I was still coming to work on time, and like we were able to keep things going. So I just wanted to chime in based on what you said on that. Like it definitely tone definitely helps.
Difference, but also the whole piece around the partnership, right? Because then the person builds, so you wait, and this is, again, sometimes, most people feel uncomfortable with silence, and so they think they have to speak. And so you have to get, and this is a tip even with interviewing, like you have to get comfortable with the silence. So sometimes you wait, right? And you wait for the employee to give you that commitment. Like, will you partner with me? You want them to give you a yes. Right. We also do this too, because you guys know my other business, right, is insurance, right? And so, like, again, these are all kind of psychological tips and tricks. So you wait and you get the person to commit, because once they do that, now they have an emotional attachment to that goal. And so it's going to sit with them, like, oh, if I'm running late, or they'll know, like, okay, let me call because I've made a commitment, so let me call and give them a heads up, that I actually am, or see if I can work something out, or, rearrange something. And so, so I oftentimes, when I go through these exercises, we role play, and then I ask them, like, how did that feel? Right? Because I want the manager to experience how it felt having someone approach them. And ideally, you want them to walk away with, sometimes they say, you know what, I felt cared for. I felt like they weren't just kind of, like you weren't just kind of ragging on me. And I said, that's the same experience you want to give your employee, because they're going to work with you in most cases and work to make improvements. Now, after that, not everyone will. After that, then that's where, again, you have to get a little bit stronger and start, working. Hopefully your company has some sort of progressive disciplinary process, and start managing it from that perspective. But, yeah.
No, definitely. And I feel like that can even I feel like emotional intelligence and communication kind of go hand in hand when it comes to like the leadership aspect, just because, of course, like you got to be able to be self-aware and everything. And then when it comes to communication, something I like saying, because I do a lot of writing. So like the technical writing piece, like I tell my clients, it's like SOPs equal communication. So like, even though it's written down, like we're still communicating via written. So like figuring out not only how to speak the right way to your team, but also communicating via the standard operating procedures. Because one of the things I'll say, even for myself, when I had my agency, like when I was hiring everybody, like I realized people were misinterpreting different things. Like even though it looked like it was saying like do X, Y, Z, like they were interpreting wrong. And just because I guess during that time I was being a little too wordy. So anywho, but just little things like that. Like, I don't know how I don't really have any recommendations, because like communication, I could do the written communication, but like I'm not really good when it comes to like speaking communication, because like my thing, I'm kind of like a hobbit. I sit in the back, right, and all that good stuff. But I don't know if I feel like you actually did actually, so never mind. I was going to say, like, do you have any suggestions like when it comes to like leaders and enhancing their communication skills? But I feel like when we talked about the emotional intelligence piece, honestly, does the job for that.
No, that's a huge part of it, and just in listening, right? Because sometimes I think like leaders, usually they're in meetings all day, and sometimes they feel like they're so time crunched, and so they're trying to rush things that they don't let their employees express to them. And I think that's important, to set aside some time and allow there to be true communication versus you just talking to them.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. So I guess that leads me to my next thing I wanted to ask about. So I guess I kind of want to like go back into like being too nice thing, because that was one of my issues when I had my agency, because I felt I was almost afraid to like put too much rules in place or policies in place. I felt like, okay, like first I've hired 1099, so like of course I can't put them through like the same things like if I had an employee. So like that was like my thing. Like I couldn't comprehend like, hey, like even though they're contractors, I still need to have a good like thing in place for them, like a good foundation for them to actually like operate, like when we speak day to day, which clients, who has this client, all this good stuff. And I wasn't putting that in place, and that actually cost me, gosh, it cost me some thousands. I'll just say that doing like operating like that. And I think I finally got it to click when one of the team members that I had, God, what did she say? I don't remember right now. If it comes to me, I'll but I'll interject it randomly throughout this live. But I can't think of what caused it right now. And I had it right in my head. But anyway, long story short, you guys, that's one of the things, like whenever you're communicating, like of course, keep it clear, not keep it cute. Oh my gosh, y'all, I'm on LinkedIn. Keep it professional, keep it realistic, but also, all right, I lost my train of thought. So we're going to move on to the next thing. thing. I was like, what am I saying here right now? Anywho, this is why this is like laid back. That's why I love this, because I stay losing my train of thought unless I have it like pre-scheduled, and I did not have this pre-written out.
Okay.
Okay, but anyway, so we're gonna go into the other thing. So I think we mentioned this last time we spoke when we got together, like when it comes to like handling conflicts and stuff with like management and like their team members. 'Cause we talked about like the quiet quitting and all that good stuff and how to resolve that. So like I feel like when it comes to leadership and of course emotional intelligence, communication and stuff, like what kind of skills do leaders need to have when it comes to like handling these type of situations? And again, I know we talked about this I think like a month ago, honestly, but I would love to touch on that stuff again because it happens a lot. And like even seeing stuff like on TikTok, like there was somebody, they were talking about like the professionalism, like people not want to abide by dress codes. There's so much stuff I've been looking at, and I feel like this is something that's just going to continue, and we have to figure out like a way to communicate things or handle conflict. So I'll leave it to you because I was like, this isn't my realm when it comes to like handling conflict. I usually send people or tell them to get an HR professional. So what kind of advice would you give them when it comes to handling like different levels of conflict? Keep it simple.
Be direct. Be direct and be clear. Sometimes, again, with that niceness, managers don't realize it, but they don't realize sometimes they don't address issues. So like, again, I'll go back to like with the person coming in late, right? Mm-hmm. So instead of sometimes, because they don't want to avoid conflict, so instead of talking directly to the person that's coming in late, they send an email to the whole department. Hey, can you guys like, make sure, and everybody else is coming in on time. So you're like ticking off like your people that actually are doing what they need to do, and then not addressing like directly the person that is having the issue. But no, I think be firm and be direct. Stick to the policies. Don't get caught up in the emotions of it. I've seen like managers get emotional, and then that's where employees sometimes can have legitimacy to file claims or harassment or what have you, because some managers they bottle it in because they don't address things head on, and then they kind of get this weird like vendetta against the person. Mm-hmm. And it appears like, from a third party looking in, like they are going after the person. And it really just stems back to when you first started to notice there were issues. Did you, like, these are questions I asked, like, did you talk to them directly? And then I find out, no, they didn't. And of course they didn't, there's no documentation or anything. But no, I say just, having clear, straight talk. Clear conversation directly with the individual for whom the messaging is for is important.
That's simple.
Yeah, that's simple and that plain. And and again, a lot of managers shy away from it because they don't like conflict.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was one of them.
And and then there are some employees that really like, they are oblivious. So then again, they get more ticked off because they're like, well, they're still doing it. And again, like if you sent this blanket communication, or maybe even in a team meeting, you just address it generally to everyone. Some people, again, like they're just completely oblivious. And what I've learned too also is for most people with most issues, again, that one conversation clears everything up. Because a lot of people do what they think they can get away with. And sometimes you just need to know that like I see you leaving early every day. Right. Is there a reason, you don't say it like that, like me, but like, hey, is there a reason that you're leaving early every day, before your shift is over? And, they might have a reason, but again, like after that one conversation, for most people, they were doing it because they thought no one noticed and they thought they were getting away with it. But after they realized like, oh shoot, they're seeing me, they kind of tighten up.
Yeah. It's funny, as you're speaking, like I was thinking about a particular instance with somebody, her management well, excuse me. Well, it's just one person in particular. Like her manager wasn't okay. So there's like two people on the team, and like her manager, she was doing the work, and the other person was falling behind, and the manager just wasn't saying anything. So like it was building up for months. So like now this person got put on a PIP and some other things. It's just like there were so many instances where I wasn't working with it. It's just in passing, but like there's so many instances where he could have stepped in, but I told her she let the guy above the manager know a little too late for certain instances, just because that should have been addressed ahead of time. So like now she's feeling burnt out, like going to work stressed out because she's not sure stuff's going to get done, things like that. It's, I don't know. I don't know how much to say about that, but I just felt bad for her. But like with you saying that, it just made me think about that. It's just, yeah, definitely communicate and don't be afraid to speak up, which was just a past thing that we did too, like speaking up in the workforce.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It is so, so key. And it's such a missed opportunity. And then, like, it's even that much more crucial for your business. Like, you know, I have contractors just like you. And so, again, like, I approach the conversations the same way, but I definitely don't have emotion with it because, one, I'm not going to let anybody mess up my money or my brand. Two,
Right.
like, I'm going to give you the courtesy, so the piece of, you know, putting yourself in their shoes and how would you want to be approached. I give them the courtesy, you know, I may try to have a conversation or a couple conversations because I want to find out if I've noticed like a change in the work, like less attention to detail and things. I start out and ask because I genuinely care for like my contractors, and I might ask like, hey, like, is there something, has there been a change or something going on that's, kind of taking your attention, dividing your attention? And maybe it's that they got another job too and they're trying to, do both. But I've had somebody that just, was, she said, oh, no, everything was good. She was going to improve. So I have the 3 strikes, right, rule. Like, I'll talk to you 3 times, about the same issue. And then finally, one day, like, I had the person working on some blogs, and it was just a lot of errors and issues with attention to detail, spacing. They just half did it, right? And so I sent them a note, like, hey, can you go back through and review all the blogs that you did and just check them for accuracy with spelling and spacing? And then they responded, can you just tell me which ones? And I'm between meetings, right, sending this message because I'm popping meeting to meeting that day. And I'm like, oh no, right?
Yeah.
After the conversations. So when I had a break in the meetings, and I think we were heading into a holiday weekend, and I was like, you know what? I'm not going to carry this into, like, next week. And so I asked if she was available, to talk, gave her a call and let her know that I was ending her contract effective immediately. And,
yeah.
And she said she was, and she wrote me after, and she was like, I was shocked by our call, but, I'm so sorry. I enjoyed working with you. And, and I was respectful about it. But,
Yeah.
like, I've talked to you, like, on 3 different occasions about the same issues, right? And approached it from different angles. And, again, it was just clear to me, like, it wasn't important for you to improve. And so, she wasn't a fit any longer.
Yeah, and I love that you brought that up because I feel like the decision making, and it's funny because I actually did like a survey back in 2022, or towards like the end of it, like it dealt with like company culture, and like some of it was just kind of like, well, not exactly what you said, but like leading to my next point. But some of it was just like the leaders failed to decide things; they weren't letting go of. She doesn't sound problematic, but like for this particular, there's like problematic employees or like slowing things down and stuff. So like that kind of like ruined like the culture and stuff. There's some other stuff, but anyway, the whole point of that, like I wanted to lead into like the decision making and problem solving portion of leadership, because I don't know if there's like a way. There's probably like coaching stuff you could probably take for that. For me, I feel like, because I'm a process person, so I'm just kind of like, we just got to map out the right kind of process for that. And I know it's not that simple for everybody. So I try to be mindful before I just open my mouth to say, I'll just create a process for that. Like, that's all I got to do is do X, Y, Z, and people look at me sideways. But like when it comes to firing people, and kind of like leads me back to that, like when it comes to firing people, because I feel like another thing people do is hold on to stuff a little too long. Like you said, act fast, be something going on, communicate that, and then make a decision from there. Like, okay, how'd that first talk go? Like, do I need to keep watching this? Like, do I need to make sure she only does like one thing? Something I did like in my agency, like with certain people that kind of fell behind, I did kind of similar like what you did, like had like 3 instances. Like one of them was just like, of course, like initial, like, hey, I noticed that you seem to be falling behind on this task. Is there anything I can do to kind of like help support you with that? Or am I giving you too much work right now? Because sometimes there were like instances where we had like 4 or 5 clients coming onboarding in a week. And so like things kind of get out of hand. So like I want to make sure I'm not giving her too much work. And then like the second time, like notice falling behind, just like, hey, like, I know she's still falling behind, like the same things. And I just want to let you know, I'll just give you like a little less work, or I'll like assign something a little less. And like by the time like the third time rolls around, and if it's still like an issue, and like we already talked, and I feel like no improvements are being made, like she's not trying to change, or they're not trying to change, and it's just kind of like, all right, like this is it, like wipe my hands on it. Because like not only that, like when she's not doing her part, my other contractors weren't able to go because we kind of had like a little flow to it. So like if someone falls behind, like yes, I have other contractors that can like fill in, because I believe heavily in cross not cross cross promoting things or cross training. So like again, just have to say it because I work with 1099s. Like I don't train my contractors, but I gave them a knowledge base so like they can learn different skills that they can apply to like their own business and use in my business, because it helps me out, helps them out, so it's a win-win. So little things like that. So like if they're falling behind on that, like sometimes I have like another contractor hop in, like they did with their knowledge base, you can do the task. But anyway, not about that. But like just moving quickly. And I feel like being able to make quick decisions like that is also a key trait leaders should have. And in order to enhance that, I feel like, I don't know how you can really enhance that, honestly. I don't know if maybe you have a tip for that, but for me, it's just like, it's a process thing. Like it's a particular process you need to work on for that. But I'm pretty sure there's something else too.
To be able to enhance what?
Being able to make like quicker decisions and stuff.
You talking about for yourself?
For like ourselves, or like for the teams, or things like that, and just in general.
No, you just have to do it.
Yeah,
that's like yourself accountable.
Yeah, that's why I was like, I don't know if there's a tip for that. I was like, I don't know. So I just do it, and if it works out, great. If it doesn't, then I know for next time.
If you're a business, like especially if you're a business owner, it hits your bottom line, right? And like I had last year, right before 2 days before Thanksgiving, I had a lady call me. She found me on Google, and when I got a hold of her, she said, "Hey, can you help me fire someone?" And so I was like, well, yeah, so let's talk about what's going on. And so, I basically had her give me a timeline. I had her go back and document and provide me with a timeline of the different incidents that occurred. And when she coached this person, she let it go on too long. And so then, based upon the issues that were occurring, I was able to quantify the damages. This woman cost her thousands of dollars, because this was an organization that received like payments through insurance for the clients that they were seeing, or patients that they were seeing. And so the lady, she was messing that up because of her, like she was misscheduling people. So then, like they weren't getting their appointments and things, and not processing things with the insurance. Yeah, it was thousands and thousands of dollars. And again, like she let it go on too long. Like she could have saved herself a few $1,000s in losses had she just addressed it, and maybe, and even just released the individual, because she wasn't a fit for the role.
Yeah.
She just wasn't. And again, this was another person that, finally what prompted her to call is she tried to have a conversation with the lady and let her know, hey, this is where, like I'm seeing you're missing some things. I need you to like improve on these. And the lady asked her, the owner of the business, she looked at her and asked her, she said, well, can't you just do it? And then that's when she went to Google. And she found Edmund Enterprises, the HR Whisperer.
Well, good for you, but man, yeah.
Yeah, people are bold. Like I said, most people, you talk to them and they'll improve, but there are those outliers. There's those folks that really just aren't, they don't get it, and they don't have any intention on trying to make any improvements at all. And so at that point, you have to just cut your losses.
Yeah. And it kind of, it's funny that you talked about that. I was thinking like how we kind of like connected, like on TikTok, I was talking about how one of my contractors ghosted, and like after I was able to actually reach her and everything, like we communicated and stuff, like I talked to her, I was like what was that? Like, what was that about? And she told me, she's just like, I just don't feel like doing the work anymore. And that was that moment, like after that experience, like I started implementing like, okay, like more check-ins with my team. Like,
yeah,
I didn't even think about something like that. Like, I know how I get sometimes, like, I kind of want to do this more so this quarter. And I was like, I wasn't doing this for my team. So I started implementing more of those meetings. Like, hey, do you even still like the work that you're doing? Would you prefer to do something else? Can I help you like do a particular task so like you can do the task that you want to? So it worked out perfectly. Like, I still have my contract. I could call them today and be like, hey, I have a project, and they're ready to go. So it's little things like that. But like, that's something I didn't even like think of. So I'm glad like that got brought up.
No, I'm telling you. I'm telling you. Yeah, it can be tough out here being a leader. And that's what I think folks need to recognize and realize. It's not always a cakewalk. And so you have to make sure that you're equipped and that you have the right development. And don't be shy. Like, again, if you get in that position where, you're promoted and then you recognize, what, I don't know if I have all the right skills. Start to seek out a mentor. Seek out a mentor if you're with like a larger corporation. Actually, talk to your manager and ask them, if they will partner with you on development, and maybe even bringing in an external coach or paying for you to do some training. There's also tons of, now we're on this platform, LinkedIn. LinkedIn Learning has some good free resources that you can take the initiative to take on your own. And here's the thing, when you complete them, like, it actually works in your favor if you're able to go to your manager and show them like you took the initiative because you recognize that you needed to increase your skill set in a particular area. And again, that psychology of it, ask them to partner with you as an accountability partner to make sure that you're implementing the things that you learn from those trainings. That actually can help boost your performance, and it can work favorably towards you.
I like that. And I feel like that's another thing. I feel like I agree on everything, but I feel that's another thing as well, like the continuous learning piece. Like,
yeah,
I know we can share tips all day, like how to improve leadership. But it's just like, honestly, it's just like a continuous journey. Yeah, and even for the team too.
Yeah, like always stretch yourself to keep learning. There's so many leadership books. Continue to read new leadership books. Learn new technology. Because then you'll have something to share with your team, right? You want people to walk away from experiences with you feeling enlightened.
Right.
Like I said, a leader is somebody that can move other people into action. And that's how you know that you're a leader, right? And, and again, it translates across languages. It translates across cultures. Look, I flew to a whole nother country, and again, it's my fault. I had a layover and missed my flight.
No.
Then we had, I was flying, this is in January when I was flying to Cartagena, Colombia, and I had a layover in Bogota and was relaxing in the lounge, chilling, and it's a long story, on the wrong side. Anyway, then we were trying to track down my luggage, and here's the thing, like, again, with Americans, like, we have to realize everybody is not trying to integrate into our culture, and so, like, there's not a lot of people that speak English, like, like working in the airports and stuff, like that's not the requirement. And so my Spanish is very minimum. And then I wasn't even thinking because I talked earlier to one of my contractors who actually lives in Bogota, and I was like, I could have just called her and had her help translate, but know that again that leader mentality kind of stepped in, right?
Yeah.
And the way I organized them and had them helping me, like regardless of language barrier, to track down my stuff, give me like the next flight. I was in amazement. I was like, I kind of laughed myself, but again, it was like a reminder. Like again, it's not you guys. I don't know if I shared it on this platform, but I love the late great Nipsey Hussle, right? And when he talks about, remember, it's not on you, it's in you, and what's in you they can't take away. And if you are a leader, it's in you. Those skills are going to come through regardless.
Yeah.
And so again, you want to make sure that you're cultivating that and that you're continuously growing and continuously improving, to expand your knowledge and your vantage point as well, so that you can be the most effective and efficient leader.
No, I definitely agree with that. And it kind of goes into like leading by example almost.
Yeah.
As well, when it comes like the leadership portion, it's just kind of like you can build it up and everything, but like unless that's something like you kind of naturally have, it's kind of hard to force someone to become a leader, especially it's kind of like, especially the people like you mentioned earlier, like they just don't want that.
Yeah. If you don't want it and you know it, again, it's hard. Like you're not going to be able to, because you have to actively work at it. You have to actively work at it, right? And and again, you learn and you tweak, like over the years as you mature and grow as an individual. And again, through reading, you learn different techniques of leadership styles, and you have to determine what type of leader that you want to be. And like I said, a leader is somebody that's able to move other people into action. Some people lead by an iron fist, and but I guess they're moving people into action. But at the same time, they're creating kind of a hostile work environment or hostile culture that usually does not it does not breed loyalty. Like I prefer to breed a culture where I have loyalty, and I truly have that. Like I can look at my team and I truly have that. Like they will do whatever. And as we've been expanding, like we've had more and more thrown on us, and it's a blessing, but it's encouraging to have people assure me, don't worry, Clonetta, we're going to get it done. I've got you. If I'll work on the week, I'll work on this on the weekend, so we can meet our deadline. And, and there's nothing like that, but that comes from having a respectful and honest and open relationship with people.
Yeah. Oops. Let me make sure my stuff. All right, man. Time went by kind of quick. It's almost 11:30. I just happened to check.
Yes.
All right. Well, I guess I'll say, since we only got 5 minutes before we wrap up the room, if anyone would like to come up and share any stories about leadership, ways to improve it, things that you're reading, things that's happening, we would love to hear it. In the meantime, Claire, you got anything going on in the next couple of weeks?
Too much. But just, guys, keep joining us here. Check out, I'm putting out a lot more content. You can also check me out on my YouTube channel, Lamborghini_C. I'm sharing some of the snippets because I just found out how to, I found an app actually that does it for me, that creates these snippets of all the content that I've created. And so just keep supporting us and touch back, and also I'm open to send me or Adriana a message if there's a topic you want us to discuss, and we want you guys to help us discuss it. So don't be shy, come up on the platform next time and share your views and perspectives.
Yes, get my mouth a break. I'm not a talker, so I love conversations, but like I'm not a talker, especially when it comes on like, these platforms. So like definitely when other people want to come up, I am totally fine for that.
Yeah, definitely.
And the only thing really, I have the Process Lounge this upcoming Tuesday on the 20th. Usually a group of us, small group of us gets around. We just talk about business. This summer, a lot of stuff was like marketing and visibility. This quarter, I see us kind of like going to like strategic planning and things like that. So if you want to join, it's free to join.
Where do we find the info?
If you click my profile, go to the featured section. It's there along with the replays of all of the past convos with HR and operations tales from Watercooler too. So everything's in my feature section. But yeah, that's pretty much the only thing really I have going on now. And yeah, that's about it. And then join us in a couple of weeks for the next topic. I don't know what that's going to be yet, but I'll put it up soon.
Okay, awesome. I'm going to look out for that. Awesome.
Yes, please.
All right, guys. Have a great weekend.
Yep, we'll just wrap it up here. Y'all have a great weekend. We'll see y'all in a couple of weeks.
All right, bye.
Bye.